everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cannon Club. On today's show, we're going to be talking about Arsenal's outstanding, exciting, amazing win against Liverpool yesterday. I don't even know what day it is. I'm just here. But listen, Arsenal did the business. They went out there, stood 10 toes down, played amazing. I mean, it's like very clearly our best performance of the season so far. And what a time to have it. And so we're going to discuss all the ins and outs of the game. And by we, I mean me and Harry. Harry, how are you feeling?
Hey, yeah, feeling good. Thanks for having me on. Excited to talk about yesterday's victory.
Perfect. Let's start with one word on how you're feeling about Arsenal right now and why. Go ahead. What you think?
Feeling good. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good because obviously we just won. We decreased the gap to 2 points. So,
Yes.
it was a real 6 pointer, right? If we lost that, 8 points off Liverpool, and then you're really talking about a negative atmosphere in what would have felt like nothing to play for in the Premier League. So now suddenly we're back in it. Fingers crossed Brentford can do us a favour. And yeah, just excited. And yeah, I feel like we're now coming into the running season, right? You start looking at the other fixtures and think, right, where can City slip up? Where can Liverpool slip up? Where can we get some momentum? So yeah, super excited. And fingers crossed we can keep pushing Man City and Liverpool to the end.
Yeah, I don't know how you like that's probably like the best way to just describe it. Just feeling good. It's a massive, massive win. Before the game, it was called the biggest game of the season so far, for Liverpool, for Arsenal, for the title race, everything. And so for us to have won it and won it the way that we did is massive. And so I can understand why the emotions are kind of like running over. And obviously we will get to the small conversation we'll have about the media just completely like pretending as though they didn't call it the biggest game of the season. And then when we celebrate winning it, it's like, well, don't celebrate. We'll talk about that. But my one word has to be relieved. Relieved that we maintained a foothold in the title race because I felt like it was slipping away a little bit. 5 points doesn't seem like a lot, but 8 points would have been a huge gap to try to overcome with teams that, I mean, up until that point, Liverpool had only lost one game in the season and it was won in a very dodgy way. Or they lost that game in a really dodgy way against Spurs at the beginning of the season. So, yeah, I just didn't know whether or not we could push beyond these teams if we did not damage Liverpool in this game. And so I feel relieved. I feel relieved that we were able to keep that foothold in the title race. I feel relieved that, you know, the team looked more like itself, if that makes sense. We've spoken a lot about, oh my gosh, we don't look like last season. Why is that? Um, I think it's clear that when teams open up, we definitely look more like ourselves. But when we're playing against low blocks like Forest, it's hard. Um, and then I'm just relieved at so many different things. I mean, even like Ben White looking more like himself. There were just so many good things. Um, that came about from yesterday. And at, if we think of like we haven't lost a game to Liverpool in the league in 2 seasons now, because we had a win and a draw last season and now a win and a draw this season. And so it's kind of like, okay, we're shaking off that
Mm.
that thing from years past where it felt like we could never get one over on them.
Yeah, it feels like against the big teams we're much better.
Mm,
And if we do slip up, it's always like, oh, but we had lots of chances to score or certain things didn't go our way. But now it feels like long gone are the days of us just getting battered by a bigger team.
mm,
We're not anyone's bitch anymore. We're showing up. And I think yesterday was really good because there's almost a little bit of revenge for the FA Cup loss because I felt in that game we should have won. And we kind of followed the same formula, followed the same pattern. The same players kind of stood out, and except this time we got the goal. So yeah, just happy like we're now up there at the big boys table. And for all of the criticisms of Arteta this year and overall, one thing you can't deny is that we're one of the top two teams in the country, or we're with Man City and Liverpool. We're there or thereabouts. And
mm.
so from now on, it's fine margins and making sure we show up over the course of the season. And I look back at the defeats. this year, and it's only Fulham away where I come from that game thinking we were shit. All of the other games, the other losses, I'm like, man, we played well at Villa, we played well at Newcastle. Just things didn't go for us.
Mm,
So it's almost like I don't read too much into XG, but in the same respect, it's a really good sign for us because we're constantly outperforming teams, and in most cases, you should get what you deserve, which is a win. And yesterday proved that. Like we had Liverpool the whole game, minus that 5 minutes after the second half. It was pretty much us the whole game. And I can't pick a man in a match. I can't pick out like one individual player. They all played really, really, really well. All
mhm.
played really, really well. And now we just got to keep on replicating that. Like West Ham away, Burnley away after that. I think we just got to keep it going now because, like I said, we're in crunch time. Like you can almost write off those couple of defeats before because we're there or thereabouts with Man City and Liverpool. You know,
Mhm.
we're kind of in touching distance. And now it's like, now don't fuck up. Like you know what's in front of you. Don't fuck up.
Yeah, agreed, 110%. Through the screen, I could actually feel the energy from the Emirates, where I feel like in games gone past, especially like the big ones, I've felt like I'm getting nervous energy, like very
Mm.
nervous energy. It's very quiet. It's eerie in there. It's like everybody's waiting on that other shoe to drop, the goal to go in from the opposition. Um, but it felt like last season where it felt like everybody was up for it. We were loud. I remember Declan Rice put in like a tackle on, I forget who it was because they were on the ground in a little ball after he after he tackled them, and everybody got up and cheered. And I was like, wow, like we're truly up for it. And it takes everybody, not just the players. The fans have to come into it as well because we know half of the difficult thing about going to Anfield is having to deal with Anfield, to
Mm.
deal with the crowd. And so I thought that the fans really came up big in this game. For you, how was the atmosphere? Because you were actually there. What were the vibes like? And yeah, just give me a summary because I'm jealous I wasn't there.
Yeah, no, it was a really good atmosphere. I think it was like an excitable energy. I've been to Emirates a few times this season, maybe like at Spurs at home, where there's a nervous energy, and it's quite hard to transfer that nervous energy into like singing because you're watching the game and you're really in the game. Whereas here, it felt like we had to show up. And I think the pre-match comments from Arteta got everyone in the mood. I think just seeing like the players train at the Emirates the night before, you could sense that this is a big game. It was getting quite dark around 4:30, so it helps for the atmosphere. And yeah, it was really good. It felt like we all showed up. It felt like there was a unity. It felt like it was vocal. I wouldn't say it was like vocal throughout the whole game, but we just felt really active. I said before, everyone was almost standing up watching the game, so we were really, really invested in it. Yeah, and I think if the Emirates is like that as much as it can, then it's great. For me, the energy in the stadium is a two-way street. When the players give you something, you bring it as well. And we compared to last season, but as we know, last season was just a whole new exciting thing. This season, there's an expectation. The atmosphere has been down a little bit. I've seen a lot of season ticket holders blame tourists and all this sort of stuff, which for me is like the biggest load of BS ever. It's just a case of now we expect to win and we're disappointed that we don't. Whereas yesterday, it was like, right, we need to win. Let's get behind the team and let's all go for it. And when you go 2-1 up, 3-1 up, it's a great place to be. And I think we left around like the 94th minute. And literally you could hear the final whistle blow and everyone's singing North London Forever around the stadium. Everyone's like, running out and singing songs. And it's just like class. The tubes were a really nice atmosphere on the way back home. Good spirits. The pubs were like filling up and stuff. So yeah, like absolutely incredible atmosphere. Well done to the fans for bringing it. Well done for Arteta to kind of getting everyone motivated. And obviously without the players, that doesn't happen. So well done for the team to really, really, getting everyone on form.
Yeah, you could tell from minute one that they were on it, And I always say that, like, I know what kind of game we're gonna have in the first 10 minutes. Like, usually, if we start off good, we continue on good. If we start off a little weird
Mm,
like that the whole game, And I was like, okay, we're on it. Okay, we
yeah.
wanna do it. And what really stood out to me was just like the how rattled Liverpool were for minute one. They were making mistakes in possession really early. Our press was really good. Obviously, that was led by, Odegaard, and, Kai Havertz did his bit. And it was just, we were on them so much that I was like, wow, like I've never seen Liverpool come to the Emirates and not be able to pass to each other. And I was like, this
Mm.
is so cool. Like it's us doing it to them this time. We just have to score a goal. But what really like stood out to me beyond like Odegaard and Kai was the combination of Jorginho and Declan Rice. They seem to have like a really good rapport, know who needs to go forward, who needs to go back, who needs to cover this and that. What did you make of like the midfield and like the balance of it and how well it worked? Because it just felt like they played together forever. And we know that they haven't, but it felt like it, which was crazy, especially in a massive game like that.
Yeah, it did, and it also felt like Jorginho like showed another side of his game. Like he was pressing a little bit more, being a little bit more adventurous, which is
Yeah.
kind of weird to see. Like some progressive passing. Um, so yeah, like really happy with like Jorginho just coming into a big game and not proving everyone wrong, but you know he was written off by quite a few fans, which I can understand, a Chelsea reject as it were. But I think just yeah, like their understanding with each other just seemed to be in sync and I like that it just gives us a little bit more like assurances on the ball, a little bit more responsibility, which allows you to carry Erdegaard in moments or carry a Havertz in moments because you have like this foundation that's going to
Mhm.
bring everything in together. Um, so it's a really weird one. I can already feel myself now like, oh, I like Jorginho a lot, and he should start the next game, and maybe we should extend his contract. And I feel myself getting a little bit excited.
Mhm.
But overall, yesterday he was top. Like he was really really good. There was towards the end when we were speaking on the WhatsApp group, I was thinking, right, he's looking tired now because you could kind of see like this wobbly head run, but he managed to get through that and like I just thought, wow, like this guy is really understood the assignment yesterday, and you could
Yeah.
tell that he's played in big games before. Like you could
Mhm.
just tell that he understands like what it means and when to slow the game down and when to speeding it up and when to you know feign an injury and stay down a little bit longer. He kind of gets it, and they're the sort of players that you need. I'm not going to say to get you over the line, but they're the sort of players that you want to get you those results. So he was brilliant alongside Declan Rice, and I think that's the benchmark against those big teams, right? Like it worked against Liverpool in the FA Cup. I know we didn't win, but it worked in terms of dominating the game. So now when you go away at City, unless Partey's fit, you think, right, well, it's got to be Jorginho, Rice and Erdegaard. Like that's your midfield three against
Mhm.
a top team away from home or at home. Like that's it. Just play that because it just gives you more. It gives you more.
Mhm.
And it's easier for Declan Rice. Sorry to go on, but it's easier for Declan Rice as well because there's another player in there who doesn't mind doing those like connections, doesn't mind those sideways passes, doesn't mind getting it off the back four. You know, it's a bit of a stress relief for Declan Rice as well. It's less about him, which is good because that's when Declan Rice can kind of get forward a little bit
Mhm.
and yeah, just and orchestrate the game for in moments. So yeah, really really good from those two. Really really good.
Yeah, Jorginho definitely adds like a level of experience that I feel like I undermined when we first signed him. I was very against the signing. Everybody knows I was had like a full meltdown. I was just like, how dare we go get another Chelsea reject? How dare we? And then we go through the summer and go buy another one, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, like Jorginho has been well worth the 12 million, if not more. He's played most of our big games this season. He played against Chelsea. He played against Spurs, but he had a little moment.
Mm,
Obviously, he played against Newcastle, which I thought he played well in that game. He's played some of the Champions League games, like he played against City when we beat them at home. He's played in these massive games for us, and for the most part, we've done really well. I think a lot has been made of his lack of athleticism. Oh my gosh, he doesn't have the legs. I'm like, well, I mean, neither did Granite really, but Arteta figured out a way to keep things compact,
yeah,
so it
yeah,
doesn't. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. And you know what? I think I love players that don't have pace, if that makes sense, because they know exactly what they can and can't do.
Mhm,
You know, they know how many touches they can take, that how many touches they can take before they're intercepted. They know they don't have a burst, so their first touch is always really, really strong. Same to Granit Xhaka. Like Xhaka rarely got dispossessed or outpaced because he knew when to do it and he'd get his body in the way, or his first touch would be really, really clever. And the greatest thing about Jorginho is the simplicity. It's like one touch, two touch. And the
mhm,
faster the game around him is almost better because he knows he gets the ball and he quickly moves it. When you look at the Spurs mistake, that's like hesitation. That's not doing the basics quick enough. So I
mhm,
think having a player like that, I don't think it's anything to do with athleticism at all. Like I don't even see that as a fault. Like some players are just slower. Like Michael Carrick was one of the most underrated central midfielders in the Premier League, and he couldn't sprint. It's not about that. Do you know what I mean? If you've got the right players around you and you're keeping the ball, it's fine. So yeah, I'm really happy. I totally understand the reservations about signing Jorginho. And if you simplify it, it's like we brought him in to win the league last season and we didn't. But we can see what he brings. We can see what he offers. And he's a really, really good footballer. Like he's just a good footballer.
He is. He's
And
quality.
like, and that's priceless in there. Yeah.
Especially with limited midfield options. Like we've had long stretches of time without Fabio Vieira, long stretches of time without Emil, long stretches of time without Thomas Partey. So you have somebody that stepped in and does a little bit of the coaching stuff as well. Like I do think that like slower midfielders that have to think more end up being better coaches. You know, like Arteta, like Xabi Alonso, like guys like that, they end up being really good because they have to think about the game differently because like you said, they don't have the physical aspects of things. And you could just see Jorginho was out there, he was pointing a lot. Almost everybody like that was out there was doing their bit, like everyone. um I saw Gabrielle doing it, I saw Kai doing it, I saw Odegaard, but I really focused in on Jorginho because I was like, wow, he's not afraid to tell people where the fuck to go. Like he's like,
Mm,
you do this, you do that, and everything was just so perfect for us. And I think it also helped us that, you know, they had a um I won't say a weak midfield, but it was definitely a midfield that we could dominate. You know,
yeah.
they had McAllister, he was on the ground every 5 seconds. Um what's the other guy's name? Curtis
Uh, Gra-
Jones.
yeah,
It's
Curtis Jones
like he
and
wasn't there.
Gravenberch as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gravenberch, like they
Yeah.
really did not get a hold of that game at all. And a lot of that had to do with Declan Rice just smashing them every time he could, you know, he could. And then Jorginho just dictating. My favorite moment from Jorginho yesterday was that pass into Martinelli at the edge of the box.
Mm,
What was
yeah.
that? I was like, what was that? That was such a good pass. Like, first time into Martinelli's feet. And it's something that we've been missing. You know, I know that I feel like what my criticism around like, you know, the whole like Rice versus Partey thing has been because it's like they're pinning them against each other when we just needed another progressive passer in there that had a different quality. It's not that Rice is not good enough, is that the midfield always needed three. And it felt
Mm,
like for a while we're playing with two. Jorginho did add that little bit of like evasiveness with his passing, and that pass to Martinelli was like the perfect, you know, it didn't come off. Martinelli didn't score, but I'm sure if you do that a couple more times, we would score off of it. So he was fantastic. He was my man of the match. He obviously won man of the match for the game as well. And I think another thing that really helped with having those two at the base was that Odegaard ended up playing in the pockets a lot more. And the goal that we actually scored first, where Odegaard played Kai in, you don't really get to see Odegaard in those positions as much when we play with the other midfield because he's so much
mm.
deeper. And it was nice to see him further up, dictating play from those pockets, you know? What did you make of like Odegaard's performance? I felt like it was one of his best in a while, you know? And it wasn't one of those where it was like, oh my gosh, you know, he goes missing in big games. Like he definitely was not missing. He was
Yeah.
fantastic. I felt.
Yeah, to be honest with you, even when Odegaard does go missing, I always feel like he contributes. Like he never hides from the ball. He always either like instigates the press or is like a strong part of it. So I feel like as a captain, like he's really active and he's brilliant. And I thought yesterday he was, yeah, he was top again. And the pass to Havertz was class. That movement, that goal together, you know, was brilliant. Um, we didn't seem to have as many of those moments where he's working the ball to Saka as we usually would. But like you said, it's probably because he was a little bit more in the pockets and maybe controlling things centrally. But yeah, I struggle with criticism of Odegaard because how he's adapted to his role in 2 to 3 seasons, I think is incredible. And when you look at the player that arrived during lockdown and the player that we have now, it's like boy versus man, you know.
Yeah.
Like I see him and I just see like a leader, and I just see he has the confidence. I see he understands the club and what we're about. And I think there's obviously lots of different types of captains. You get really vocal captains, really aggressive captains, and he kind of sits in the middle where he's not particularly vocal, he's not particularly aggressive, but he understands it enough. And as a club, I think we should be really, really happy that we've almost got like, I don't want to say a silent warrior because he's not silent, but we've always got someone that just goes about his job in the right way. And when you're talking about big games, he always influences the game. He might not get the goal or the assist, but he always influences the game. And if you can see the amount of times he gets the ball in tight areas and doesn't lose it, we take it for granted. We really do. But he gets it zipped in back to play and a one touch, two touch out of his feet and plays another pass. And that is just like, it's so underrated. And we just see it all the time. But his feet are
Mm,
incredible. Always spotting the pass, always working well with Saka and Ben White. I think he's a terrific player. And for me, it's less about the goals and assists. It's more about what he brings overall. And he just continues to do that. So yeah, top captain's performance from him as well. I love the celebrations at the end. I really like Erdegaard as a player. I think we're lucky to have him, and there's no ego, there's no attitude. You know, he's a
mhm,
creative player, but he doesn't give you the Özil shoulder shrugs, and he doesn't sulk. If he gives away the ball, he's really, really on it to win it back. So I find it, I find it bizarre when I hear Arsenal fans criticise him. I find it really bizarre because I think, man, he's exactly what you want in a footballer: humble, works hard, skillful.
mhm,
Like, what more do you want? So yeah, top performance from him
mm.
again,
I
and
feel
yeah,
like
hopefully.
go ahead.
No, go, you go. Yeah,
I feel like Odegaard, like, they focus a lot on what he can't do and not a lot on what he can do. Like, one thing about Odegaard is as busy as he is and as much as he will put his body on the line and kinda, get stuck in, he's still not, like, that big of a player, so there are gonna be times where he loses duels. I've seen him lose duels. He got shoved off the ball by McAllister yesterday. He got shoved
yeah.
off the ball
And
by
Van Dijk, I think Van Dijk,
yeah,
right? He tried to take Van Dijk on, and Van Dijk like
yeah.
stepped across. Yeah,
Ross
and
Barkley, I saw him do that as well,
yeah.
and I'm just like, "What do you expect?" Like, you stand there and let me go grab somebody that's much stockier and bigger than you and let them shove you and see if you don't lose a duel or so, you know? I feel like that's the biggest thing is he's weak, he doesn't do this. I'm like, "You guys, Odegaard is never gonna be Declan Rice. Why do you
Mm,
expect him to be?" That's so weird, but all the things that he does do is so good for the team that I just don't understand it. I think he's had a pretty underrated season and he would be more it would be more spoken about if we had scored more goals during the time that he was, like, really got on fire, which was after the hip injury. Because I think he's statistically the most creative midfielder in the league right now, um, and he's created, like, 7 or 9, 8, 10 big chances, but he's really underperforming his expected assists, which for me just is the story of our season where we're creating chances, but we're not putting them away. And I feel like if he had gotten the assists that he probably deserved during this period, then we'd be speaking about him differently. But I just feel like you said, like, even without the goals and assists, he's really like rounded out his game so well. He's like you said, he's not just a creator, he does so many good things. And you saw all of that on display against Liverpool. Like he had it. I was I love Odegaard, so I'm kind of biased, but I thought he was magical, and I did love the moment with Stewart, which I felt like it was strange that people tried to turn it into something other than like a very wholesome moment. That was like so wholesome and cute. Like Stewart has been like a fan for longer than most of us have been alive, you know? And that was a big moment for him. Like, I mean, I always refer back to this is my club. This is my fucking club. I love this
Mm.
club. Like it's Arsenal as a family. I don't understand why. I get it. Jamie Carragher obviously had like major head loss.
You could tell
And
by the way Carragher was talking. He wasn't talking as a pundit. He was talking as an angry man in a
yes,
pub. Like it
yes,
was anger. You could feel it. And I bet when he listens back to it, he goes, "Oh yeah, he could sense in his voice. He was a little bit too invested
yeah,
in that particular moment."
yeah,
Um, but
because it
yeah,
wasn't
like
a
you
big
say,
deal.
no, it's not a big deal. And if you understand the context of it, so you understand who maybe the club photographer is and the role he has to play in the club, then it's not a big deal at all. But if you don't understand that, you'd be like, why is Erdegaard grabbing the camera? But I mean, fucking hell, like it's one of those things where you don't even want to talk about it because it's so stupid to make that the scene or to make that like the summary of the game to focus on that. I just find it really, really bizarre. And I think until we win something, we'll always be accused of being maybe a little bit too emotional
Yeah.
or a little bit too childish or immature, however you want to describe it. There's a million examples to show other managers doing that sort of thing, and it's lauded and it's praised. But
Like
in
Klopp.
this, yeah, exactly. But in this case, it's criticised. It's too simple to say life's too short, enjoy every moment. But I just don't know what to say to that sort of stuff, because it's like we it opens up the bigger conversation of just engagement and internet and how it all works in terms of like what mainstream media now is. So when you watch Sky Sports, you're not really getting a lot of analysis. You're just getting just people talking. You're getting fans talking. You're getting, in Gary Neville, a failed manager telling managers how to do their job. You're getting Jamie Carragher, who, in all honesty, if Jamie Carragher was playing now, he would be like a Connor Cody or Eric Dyer. Like he would be that player, like a good defender, but that's it. Average on the ball, a utility man, but he's got his hometown club and they love him. Don't get me wrong, he has an incredible career, but if he was to play in the modern day now, there's no way he's an elite centre back, not in my opinion. But they're so good at telling us where we've went wrong, i.e., like Ben White was a bad sign. What's the transfer strategy? Arteta getting fourth is the most he can do. They're so good at telling us all these things, but then when we try to enjoy a moment, we can't. And I just find it so strange that Sky have these pundits covering a massive game, a really good game as well, where Arsenal have wiped the floor with the team who are top of the league, and their takeaway is over celebrating. Now, don't get me wrong, on Monday Night Football tonight, I'm sure they'll analyse things in great detail, which they will. But in that moment, for the biggest takeaway from that game to be Ødegaard taking a picture of someone is bonkers in my eyes. Bonkers.
Nonsense.
Yeah, and it's quite sad, right? Because you've got Ødegaard who, like I said, plays the game the right way, carries himself the right way. You've got a club photographer who's been there for many, many years, and they're just having a little moment together, like a little moment of fun. And you got Carragher saying, "Just get down the tunnel," and Neville talking about immaturity. It's like, I mean, for me, immaturity is making that the issue. Like
Yeah.
that's immaturity for me.
I mean, we have the third youngest team in the league and one of the youngest managers. So there's always going to be a level of youthfulness to everything. The excitement, first time for everything, it's normal, I feel like. The thing that always confuses me is that why does Arteta have to do things like everyone else? Why can't he be himself? Like, why does he have to be like Arsene? Because Arsene for a
Hmm.
long time was very stoic and, you know, like very like calm, cool, collected. And so that's what became synonymous with the Arsenal manager, Clasinal, be quiet. Just
Hmm.
Arteta is a completely different person with a completely different, ethos. And he's younger and he loves to be energetic. That is his vibe. And so I don't really get like this whole, well, he needs to be more mature or, he needs to be more respectable and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, if it's working, then why stop? We literally, like you said, just wipe the floor with the best team in the country right now. And from minute one on commentary here, honestly, in America, from about the fifth minute, they were talking about Arteta being excitable on the sideline and how he
Hmm.
needed to calm down because, this is a massive game. And I'm like, yeah, but if we're winning all these big matches, because we have won a lot of big matches under Mikel Arteta and recently, we've been really good against the big six, really good. Um, and he's always been this way. So if it's not hurting us, then why does he need to stop? Because the most dead we've ever looked in a game was against Villa this season, and he wasn't on the sideline. And I felt like we don't have his energy. I feel like he knows that the young players need it, and they're not getting that. Like every team is different and every team needs different motivations. Not everybody needs a quiet guy on the sideline. Like I don't get it. Like I'll
Yeah,
never
I
understand
mean,
it.
there's like two things. So if, just say for example, if England were in a final or quarter final, semi final, and we just scored a goal in the last minute to knock out someone, and Gareth Southgate did that thing, it would be incredible, right? The pundits would
Yeah.
love it. They say, "Oh, look at the passion, look at the energy. It's incredible. Like he's united England." There's there's definitely something about Arteta that the media and opposing fans don't like. I don't think he's loved by everyone. Maybe they see him as arrogant, maybe they see him as a know-it-all, but there's definitely something there. So the character has already been formed, or opinions of Arteta have already been made. And when you talk about the pundits, having a go at him within 5 minutes, like I say, the storyline's in their head already. So
Mm,
as soon as he stands up once, it's going to be mentioned. And then typically what all pundits do is they just run with one theme or a particular theme and repeat it throughout the whole match. So it's in your head. And then so when they tweet about it later, it's there. When it goes on, when a clip gets published by NBC Sports, whoever it is, it's, oh yeah, look, they're spot on, this happens. So it's all of that whole like engagement thing. But when it comes to Arteta like over celebrating, maybe that's just who he is as a person. Like Arteta was a bit subdued, and ironically, Arsenal fans would abuse Wenger for not being involved again enough, and all he does is sit down and stay on the bench until the 70th minute or whatever. So now here we have a manager who is like kicking every ball, and of course it will go over the line a few times, but it's only an issue when we don't win. If we win, it's not an issue.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's another thing that I'm confused about. And as an Arsenal fan, like I love that because I feel that he's part of it. I feel like he's involved, and that's how I celebrate goals in my living room. That's how I celebrate goals with my friends. Like that's how I've celebrated goals at Emirates, leaving my seat, running down, hugging someone, and I want to see that from the manager. And I think it's beautiful, and it's mad to think that something so beautiful is being criticised. Like it's
It's
mental.
it's yeah, and it's Liverpool in the biggest game of the season so far. We were also criticized for over celebrating a last minute goal against Luton. Yet I'm seeing other teams do the exact same thing for nothing. Like it's fine. Like it's not that deep. And I don't get it. Like I feel like Arteta's energy actually helps us. I don't think it hinders us at all. Now, I want to talk about the first goal a little bit more because it was fantastic. And I really hope that, when they do Monday Night Football and stuff like that, they really like go into it because I've never seen us break Liverpool down like that. We cut them into ribbons. Like it was crazy. I was like, wow, we really just cut straight through them. It reminded me a little bit of like when we played against Man City in the FA Cup and we broke them down, and it was like all those passes and all that like building out from the back. Very similar, very patient play from like Saliba and Gabriel and Zinchenko. Then it got to Odegaard, the one touch through to Havertz. Havertz has caught life. I'll be really honest. He caught life because I was like, if Saka had not been there or he had been offside, you would have been in so much trouble, buddy. So much trouble. And I know
Yeah.
Allison's a fantastic goalkeeper, so you have to take that into consideration. But he really should be finishing that. That being said, the goal came at the right time. It was like around the 15th minute. It was what we deserved. Saka gets to celebrate. He's been criticized for not having enough flair or not enough natural talent. Well, I'll take those talentless goals. Thank you very much. And we're up 1-0. Havertz, I thought, did have a good game yesterday. I've seen some people say like we're still celebrating mediocrity, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that you can have a good game at center forward for Arsenal and not score a goal because Jesus does it all the time, you know?
Mm.
And so I thought he played well despite catching life on that goal. What did you make of his performance and, his contribution yesterday?
Yeah, look, I think I spoke last week about I wouldn't be surprised if Havertz starts up top with Jesus left wing, simply because I thought he had a really good game in the FA Cup against Liverpool, apart from not scoring. And it's probably the same thing again. I think he had a really effective game, like a really effective game. Um, Led the line well. Didn't win a lot of his duels, but made those duels tougher. Van Dijk and Kanate was involved in the goal. I think the key part to that move was when he comes short for the pass and maybe plays to Zinchenko, who then plays
Mhm.
it to Odegaard. So he was really heavily involved. I think if you watch the game back, you'll see a really seasoned performance. And I understand why Arteta starts him because similar to Jorginho, I think he understands big games, or I'd say his football intelligence is quite high because there's a few times when he brings the ball down really, really well when he presses. Even things like when Kiwar missed that header, Havertz is running straight to left back. So I think he
Mhm.
understands the game. I think he's got a good IQ. I thought yesterday, like he was really, really good, and all that was missing was that goal. But I thought he was really,
Mhm.
really good. I think he gave Van Dijk and Konate a really tough game, which is hard because they're both incredible centre backs. So
Mhm.
yeah, I was really happy. And like I say, similar to Nketiah, if you're not going to score, then you need to do all of the other things. And Havertz didn't
Yeah.
score, and he'd done all of those things. And I'm happy with that. And don't get me wrong, when he went through on goal, I think even his mum and dad knew he wouldn't score. You could sense it. Like it was like
I was not
slow.
confident at all.
Yeah, I was like, and then when he missed it, my dad was like, "Oh, Havertz, you shit!" And then he missed Saka's score, and I was like, "Ah, look, he scored." So yeah, but yeah, I think he was obviously it was all on his right foot, and he's probably focusing too much on the connection as opposed to maybe just like placing it. And yeah, very easy save for Allison. But yeah, I'll be honest with you, Havertz was up there for me yesterday. I think we had a really,
Mhm.
really good game. Um,
Yeah.
and
You
all,
got
all we
Konate
need
sent
is
off.
exactly, yeah. But even like the first touch from bringing it down from the air when Konate had the first booking, there was one maybe after they went down to 10 men when he kind of controlled it with like his heel and a Liverpool player fell over. I thought he showed real composure. What I've noticed is like I've got a few friends who don't like Havertz, so they'll obviously
Mhm.
look at the negatives. But I'm like Havertz, so I tend to look at the positives. So I think it just depends what side of the fence you want to
Yeah.
sit on, because you can definitely say he should have scored, and if Saka wasn't there, then we lose that game or whatnot. But I'm focusing on the good things that he done, and I think that's enough for him to build on something. And I think it's a good alternative to Jesus up front. I think it just gives you a bit more of a presence, even though he's not physical in terms of like wide shoulders and strong. He just gives you that bounce board at the top, and I think I'd rather have that than I would Nketiah, who's kind of in and out of games. So
Yeah.
yeah, decent enough performance, and if he can add some goals, like the jury's out on Havertz. There's no doubt. Is he a left day? I thought he'd slot in there, and I thought he'd really take that position to the next level. I was convinced of that, and it hasn't worked out. And now he's more of a utility man, so it's kind of up to him how he wants his career to go. If he can find his finishing boots, then maybe we've got like a Giroud hybrid kind of centre forward.
Is
If he
is this
can't,
best position for you at center forward then? Because like, you could look at his performances and be like, "Okay, he had a good performance in the Community Shield up front, good performance against Liverpool up front. He came in off the bench against Man City up front." Like, do you think that that's kind of where he needs to be, and maybe the left 8 thingy is not gonna work, or it's still to be determined?
yeah, do you know what? I think it's still TBC, but as we've shown, we don't have time to find things out. Like
Yeah.
we spent the first 18 games of the season trying to find things out. And the biggest takeaway I've got from yesterday is probably one of the very few games where I've come away thinking, oh, we missed Xhaka today. Like we missed someone in that role. And I don't feel like we missed someone in that role yesterday. So that would prove to me that Havertz as a left eight probably isn't right. And working it around a Jorginho, Rice, and Erdegaard as a midfield trio is probably the best. And with Jesus' injury problems, maybe we need a more reliable plan B up front. And maybe that's Havertz. And if you can find his goal scoring form, then maybe he'll take that confidence in and play in left eight, and he'll be more relaxed. But it doesn't feel like we have time to experiment with left eight anymore. So play him up front and let him do his thing. And then have Jesus or Nketiah, Martinelli on the back burner to rotate. Uh, but however, what I will say is he has to start scoring as well, because if you're playing up front, you can't just get away with doing all of the other things. There'll be a time when we need you to score those goals. So
Yeah,
hopefully he
for
can do that
sure.
soon.
I I look forward to watching the meltdown when Havertz starts left 8 against West Ham, at the weekend, because I don't think
Mm.
Arteta's gonna completely move on from it. It was his grand master plan, for the summer, so I definitely expect to see Havertz at left 8, at some point, but I do think he's an option up front for us in the short term, and like you said, if he could just nick a goal here and there, it'd be great. I think
He
he
just needs
plays.
a tap in, man. He needs like a just needs a
Yeah.
tap in, like a penalty box tap in from across. There was a few times yesterday when he didn't bust a gut to get into the box, and there was a few times where if he made a better decision on the ball with his first touch, he could have maybe got an assist. So there's still like some hesitance in his play, or he can't
Yeah.
seem to get the ball under control and work his body out. So if he can just get like a tap in, I'm pretty sure all of those other things will be made easier because he'll just be a little bit more relaxed. But yeah, he needs a stinky, sweaty goal, and then maybe he can be like this little bags man.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still holding out hope that Havertz will, quote unquote, come good, because I still think it's a little bit like, yeah, but he did his job yesterday, like everybody did. And so I do feel like he deserves a little bit of a, credit there, because I know some people and it's like, oh, Havertz is blah blah. I'm like, sometimes it's about the moment and not about the overall thing. We
Mm.
get it. We spent 65 million on. We get it. We've said that like millions of times. Yesterday, he was good, and he got con artist sent off, and I loved every minute of it.
Hey, that was
Listen,
class because that made the
yeah,
last 5 minutes of the game like
so much easier.
relaxing. Oh
So
god,
much
yeah,
easier.
like that was vital to us, just being able to relax a little bit and enjoy the last 5 minutes and get that third goal.
Yeah. So we obviously concede right before halftime. And, I'd spoken about this again, like when we were talking about the Forest game, that there was a sloppiness creeping into Saliba's game. And I felt like the reason why I highlighted it is because I was nervous about this game, because I was like, well, if you're making these mistakes against Forest and they're capitalizing on it, then you make the mistake against Liverpool and it's going to cost us. And it did. It didn't cost us everything, but it cost us a goal. I did see some people trying to say it was Raya, but I still feel like he missed a header very early on in the game against Luis Diaz, which to me makes no sense because you're 6'4" and he's 5'3", so you should be winning that. And then when the goal happened, he missed another header, and that's what started the whole move for Liverpool. Then obviously, like, it becomes like the little whatever, he was trying to shield it, and Luis Diaz gets around him, and I'm like, again, you're big, he's small, you know, and then he nicks it, and then it goes off of Gabriel and goes in the back of the net. And it's not to go in on Saliba. I just feel like he's one of those where people will try to find any reason why he cannot have been culpable. And I'm like, he's 22, guys. Like, he's going to make mistakes. It's not that deep. But one of the things about his game that I feel like needs to improve and quick is his heading. I feel like even the game against Forest, the main problem was that he did not head the ball out. He missed the header. Awani put a body on him and he missed the header and boom. And, a lot of things have to happen for a goal to go in the back of the net. But I feel like some of these are starting because Saliba's not getting it right aerially.
Mm.
Um, and I get that, I personally feel like people tried to make it Raya because they want to continue the Raya scapegoat nonsense. But I just see that goal as Saliba should be hitting that into the stands or clearing it. He had time to clear it. He had time to take control of the situation, and he didn't make a decision. And, basically Liverpool made the decision for us and put it in the back of the net. What are your thoughts on the way that the goal was conceded? Do you think that it was who do you think should have done better in that scenario?
Well, I mean, if you watch the goal in its entirety, right? Yeah, so Saliba doesn't win the header convincingly enough at the start, and then I think Declan Rice like closes down Gravenberch, but then backs off. Does this weird thing where he drops off, and then that gives
Mm.
Gravenberch the space to play the ball. It's so weird because in real time, I could have swear that moment lasted about 10 seconds because I was like, someone clear it. And then I was shouting, Raya, Raya, because what I'd say is it's a bit like if you leave your boot of your car open long enough, someone's going to take something. And I feel like Saliba, for long enough, kind of showed his cards, which was, I'm not going to clear this. Like, I'm putting my body in a way. I'm trying to see this ball out. So in real time, I'm thinking, right, Saliba has essentially told Raya, like,
Come
I'm going to
out.
let this, come out and get it. And then, but Raya's like, oh, and then before you know it, they've scored. Like, I was just like, fucking hell, what are we doing? Like, we play really, really well, and we've just conceded the weirdest goal ever.
The
Like, the
most
weirdest
Arsenal
goal.
goal ever.
Yeah. Oh, and obviously it comes off Gabriel's hand because he always seems to find himself getting in the way when it's not even his fault. And he's like, for fuck's sake, I've scored an own goal. And I was purposely stood out the way of this one. So yeah, really poor from Saliba. He's doing that thing, like I mentioned last week, where it's almost like he's been indecisive, but he's also trying to exercise his power and be like, you can't get the ball off me. Like, look how big I am. And the player's persistent. So yeah, it's definitely an error with Saliba. I mean, I do think Raya probably could have come out, but he only has to come out
Mhm.
because Saliba doesn't deal with it. And it's, but how many times are we going to say that this season? I'm just confused how this keeps happening. And I'm just waiting for us to concede another bizarre goal when we're cruising a game. So I'm just thankful that it didn't come back to bite us in the arse and we managed to turn it around. But I will say about age, and I'm really, really happy that Van Dijk and Addison made the same mistake Because
Yes.
if they didn't, all we would have heard was Saliba's not good enough. I thought this was your guy. All these weird tweets about comparison defenders,
Van
and it
Dijk
just
clears
shows you.
that. That's
Yeah,
the
it just
difference.
shows you. Listen, it's not about age. It's not about experience. It's got nothing to do with that, really. It's just about
Yeah.
sometimes defenders can make mistakes, and that's it. And he made a mistake, and Van Dijk's mistake and Addison's mistake was just as bad. So yeah,
Yeah.
but like you say, it's something that he has to cut out of his game. Just deal with it. Like, don't give yourself a problem. Don't give yourself a question. You get it. Deal with it. If you give away a corner, you give away a corner. You know,
Yeah.
like don't
Yeah.
worry. Deal with the now and not let the ball roll and roll and roll and try and be a little bit.
Especially how close it was to halftime. You have to be decisive and just smash it, you
Yeah.
know? But again, like, there's nothing wrong with saying that Saliba made a mistake. I do feel like because of how he came in and how loved he is, it's like, no, yeah, Saliba makes mistakes, guys. And it's fine because it didn't cost us. And one of the best things about it for me was that Mikel said after the game that the halftime conversation that he had was that forget about the goal because if you put your heads down now, they'll smash us. And any sort of weakness that we show from here on out will be capitalized on by Liverpool. You have to remember like what we did prior to that and just go again. And I like that he said that because that's exactly what I thought was going to happen. I was like, okay, we conceded this goal now. So now Liverpool are going to come out the first 15 minutes and they're going to blow us away because we are damaged now because we're not going to be able to have the goldfish memory and move on from it quickly. Saliba was perfect after that. He was fantastic
Mm,
after that. Like everybody was. They had completely wiped that goal from their minds. Perfect. We need to have that more. Goldfish
mm,
memory is so important in football. I feel like you have to remember that you were playing well. And yeah, like Liverpool in the second half, first 10 minutes were on us. I think Virgil van Dijk tried to say we were on the ropes. We were not, but okay. You had a couple of little moments. And then we wrestled control back, and I just was like very impressed by the maturity of that because I remember a time where conceding a goal like that, that was it.
mm,
You're not going to come back from that. It's going to be very like, oh my gosh, we conceded. And Arteta's halftime speech did well because we did hand Klopp a pretty decent hand. Like we did. Like he probably was going into the half thinking, okay, we're only 1-0 down. We should probably be 3 or 4-0 down and we can come back from here. But then they got the goal. And then he was probably like, okay, we can go now from here. But I thought whatever Mikel said at halftime, he said what he kind of said, but I'm sure he said it differently, really worked because I loved watching the players not let that fester and throw away all the good work that they did in the first 45.
I got to say, in the ground, it felt like the first 5 minutes Liverpool were on us, and I saw them have like
Hmm.
maybe I saw them have like two or three shots. Right, I think it was Curtis Jones and maybe Jota. I don't know, but I was watching. I was like, oh no. So I felt like we were sinking a little bit, but then we survived that part, and then we imposed ourselves, and then it was kind of normal service resumed. So yeah, so like I feel like football is fine margins in that respect, and if one of those Curtis Jones shot did go in, then it's like, oh shit, we're under pressure now, or we're down a goal. But I think, yeah, like you say, what's pleasing is that if that happened last season or the season before, I feel like we would have lost the game. I feel like we wouldn't have got over that. But now I feel like we're a little bit more mature, and I think ultimately we know we're a really good team now. So I think we know that we will keep creating chances, which I think is sometimes when you see a reluctance for Arteta to change things tactically or make subs, because he's so convinced we're going to keep on creating chances. We're going to keep on knocking on the door. So I think the team has that within them now that they know, oh, we can get the ball out wide to Saka, or we can get the ball to Martinelli. Like they knew Martinelli had Trent on toast. Like
Yep.
Klopp knew it. And to Liverpool's naivety, I can't believe they allowed us to do that repeatedly. So I think what's pleasing is that we give away a silly goal, but we don't live to tell the story. We can forget about it and we can just carry on imposing our game.
Yep.
And just on Saliba, sometimes you make a mistake, you need a wake up call. You need to hit the reset button, a little refresh, and this keeps him humble. And I'm convinced now against West Ham we'll probably go away, keep a clean sheet, and Saliba will be an absolute boss. So I think sometimes players need that little reminder that hey, let's reset, let's make sure we win our duels and deal with the pressure. So hopefully Saliba now can have an almost faultless season to the end.
Yeah,
Because I thought as a back four defensively, especially after Zinchenko went off, I thought we were brilliant. I thought
agreed.
like I thought what I loved about it, not to digress too much, is that obviously when Zinchenko was on the pitch, things are a lot more like creative and complex, and the way we pressed, like Zinchenko was following Gravenberch into the middle on their press when Liverpool had a goal kick, and then Gabriel was like wide left, and then when Liverpool switched the ball, Gabriel comes back inside, Zinchenko has to move from centre mid to left back. So it's kind of like this overcomplicated way of doing it, but it's effective. But Kiwior just comes on and it's a flat back four, and it's almost like the roles and responsibilities are super clear. So it feels like there's less room for error. Like Kiwior is on to defend, and he defended really, really well. Played some really good passes down the line, won his duels, almost scored a goal, and then the whole back four just dealt with that second half like really, really well. Like it felt like you were watching a Man City defense, just like four
Yeah.
6 foot plus centre backs all playing across the back four, dominating a team, like dominating a team. And no matter who they brought on, Nunez or swapped around, Jota, we answered all their questions and we just bossed them. But we created them. They pretty much created nothing, minus that little second half Spurs. They created nothing. They were
Yeah.
just as shocked as we were when they scored the goal. Like they were just as shocked. So like
Yeah.
the
I
defense, the defense has deserves huge credit. Sorry.
Klopp like described the game as like very strange, and I think when he was talking, I was like, what he means by very strange is that they're not used to being dominated like that. They're just not. You don't see it. It doesn't happen. Like they don't. I don't remember the last time I seen Liverpool get dominated like that. I
Mm.
don't. You
They
know.
tried to press us, but they couldn't as well. They tried to bring the energy in. And there's that clip of Curtis Jones like saying, "Oh, if you want to make it a battle, like we'll do that." And I think they probably wanted it to become a battle. Like I think they wanted it to be physical, to be end to end, but they couldn't get near us. We were passing the ball around so effectively that it was almost like they were chasing shadows. So we didn't really have to worry about what they did on the ball because we just kept the ball. And when we
Yeah.
lost it, we were so organised, and it's so simple. But if you've got the ball, the other team can't hurt you. And it was almost that for the whole game. And I
Mhm.
remember what was it at the draw at Anfield. Klopp finished that game like saying to Arteta like, "Wow, like what a game! Like really impressed with what we were doing." And I think yesterday, like he was just talking shit because he didn't know what to say. He
Yeah.
wanted to say he wanted to say anything but Arsenal shat on us. Like Arsenal handed us one today. He couldn't say
Yeah.
that. He had to talk about the referees' decisions and whatever. But ultimately, we bossed them for like 85 minutes of the 90 minutes. Like
We
absolutely bossed
did.
them.
For exactly. And like one of the things that I remember like listening to Arsenal Vision a couple of years ago, one of the things that Clive said that always stood out to me was that he would talk about how a couple of years ago, I think we lost to Liverpool 2-0 at home. And this was the season that we finished fifth, I think. Um, and we were good. We didn't get ran over, but he mentioned how much bigger they were than us. Like the physical difference between the two teams was stark because at that point there was no Saliba, there was no Kai Havertz, there was no Declan. Like we were much smaller than they were. In yesterday's game, we were just as big as they were, and so they couldn't make it that physical game. Because even though Saka and Martinelli are not tall, they're physical players. The two of them, they can't, they're not light. So you have Kai Havertz in there that's damn near the tallest person on the pitch. You have Declan out there who's 6 foot something. You have your back line like you said, when Kivior was out there, everybody was 6'2" and above. Like that's so different than what we were before. And I think that's a not physicality is not always the biggest thing, but I do think that being able to win the duels and go toe to toe, you kind of have to have a similar to them. And then for so long, they were so much bigger than us. Um, and I think that that really helped us out. You said something interesting about the Kivior thing, that his role was kind of like more simple in the flat back four. I wanted to at least point out the fact that like I do think that Arteta gets a lot of criticism about maybe not learning or, whatever, but there were several different things in that game that showed me that Mikel Arteta is learning or takes things from games that we've done well and changes things, because his last two times we've seen Kivior play, he's played more simplified role since the Fulham game
Mm.
against Fulham. I know I was very critical about him making him play like Zinchenko. I thought it exposed him and made him look bad, where he simplified the role. So he didn't say do Zinchenko, like no, just do you. Do what you can do well. He also brought on Trossard to do the same role that he did against Forest. Come on, keep the ball. Don't panic, keep the ball. And Jorginho, he took what he got from the FA Cup and didn't do something else. He saw that that worked and he kept with it. He didn't overthink it. And I'm just like, Arteta does do a lot of good things and nobody really talks about it. Um, and so when he does things that are stupid, criticize, but when he does things that are right, and you could see that he's working through it, and hopefully for the rest of the season, he doesn't tinker too much from here. No more tinkering. We've
Mm.
done that. And he keeps on with some of these themes. Um, I want to talk about Martinelli though, because he does score the second goal, which ends up being the winner. Um, it is a calamitous error by Van Dijk and Allison, but Martinelli does make his own luck by chasing a lost cause and shoving Virgil van Dijk in the back. And then,
Mm.
they make the mistake. But Martinelli's overall game yesterday was probably his best game of the season. And I
Yeah.
think there's several players that you could say this was their best game of the season so far. What did you make of Martinelli? Do you think he's fully back? Like, what's the vibes on Martinelli?
Well, that's why Femi's not here, right? Because Martinelli had a really good game. It's obvious, isn't
Exactly.
it? It's
You don't want
obvious.
to talk about it.
Yeah, I thought from that moment Martinelli took the ball on the left wing to put the cross in for Saka. That's when I thought, oh wow, he looks up for it today. Because I
Mhm.
was convinced he was going to check back because he didn't fancy the foot race with Kanate. But once he took that, like maybe the third touch and then crossed with his left foot, I was like, wow, like he is up for it today. Because I'm pretty sure Martinelli that isn't as confident kind of like turns away and plays it back inside. But he took responsibility in that moment, and I think he gave them a real tough game. Like he gave Trent a torrid time. I was saying to my dad, like Trent and Zinchenko, it's like they're the same person when it comes to defending. Like they don't like it, and you can tell they're uncomfortable with it. And there was a
Mm.
few times when Martinelli didn't really have to do anything, but he just got past Trent. So I thought, yeah, Martinelli was sharp. Like that little shoulder barge to Van Dijk can't be like underrated, if that makes sense. It's such an important part to the goal. If Van Dijk doesn't know, if Van Dijk thinks it's an easy little pass back to Addison probably doesn't come out, but Addison comes out because he knows Van Dijk is under pressure and he creates confusion. And that little shoulder barge, which to do that you have to be strong as well, right? Because if you're not strong, someone like Van Dijk won't move. So yeah,
Mhm.
like great goal, a great goal because you've turned nothing into something, and you can only do that if you're willing to work hard and if you're willing to go up against Van Dijk and kind of be fearless and to say, no, I'm going to make this a problem for you. And overall, he had a really good game. I think that's maybe 2 goals in 4 now, or 3 in 4 or something. So hopefully he can carry that on. And I'm glad he came off at the time he did. I thought that substitution from Arteta was class. And on the timeline, and even in the ground, everyone's like, oh, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Martinez's having such a good game. But that was the time that the game was going to become deeper, and we needed someone who was better on the ball as opposed to like off the ball. And Trossard came in and impacted the game really, really well. And this is what we need. And this all kind of stems from the Palace game of us having this convincing home win in terms of goals and players finding confidence. And now this is what we need in crunch time. Trossard to come and step in, Martinelli to score some goals, Saka to find his scoring boots, Jorginho to make an impression, Keyward to make an impression. Because now we're at cup final time. So if we can get everyone's confidence up by utilizing them in the right moments, we're onto good things. And one satisfaction from yesterday is that, like, I'm not thinking, oh, why didn't we bring ESR on? And I know Emil Smith Rowe will be unhappy that he didn't make the pitch, but I bet also a part of him would have been like, oh, I enjoyed that. I understand why I didn't make the pitch, and I can't wait to play again, because I feel like collectively Arteta made like these unanimous, incredible decisions that everyone was like, that was perfect. Even the subs that didn't play, they contributed because they understood the assignment. So, like, yeah, sorry to digress, but Martinelli was class, Trossard was class, subs were class, and now we need to maintain that form. That's what wins you league titles, right? Players coming
Yeah.
off the bench and making an impact. It's all about that. It's all about that. So
Mhm.
hopefully Trossard can do that for us this season, and Martinelli can carry on scoring.
Yeah, I mean, they're so important to our game because Martinelli, without his goals, we're definitely not winning anything. And his contribution to the game, because it's more than just the goals. It's like you said, his fearlessness, his ability to run in behind. He adds so much to our game, and we've sorely missed that, I think. And then you have Trossard, who's kind of like that next man up, but he has so much GA in his boots. Like he's somebody that consistently gives you end product, and you need that because I don't necessarily feel like we have a lot of players on the bench that add that. You know, you have like Reese Nelson and stuff. They can do stuff, but I'm not sure that any of them are as consistent in terms of scoring goals as Trossard is, or getting assists as well. So I was really happy to see that sub worked out. I did see on the timeline that people were, oh my gosh, how could you take out Nelly? I wanted Trossard on, but I didn't want Martinelli off, if that makes sense. I felt like,
Mm.
is there a way that everybody can stay on, but you also can't take Havertz off because he's the outlet, like, so Martinelli was sacrificed, and obviously you could see it on his face that he wasn't happy, but it worked out because Trossard's goal, which is an individual little bit of brilliance. I saw somebody called him Sleepy Messi, and I was just like, I love that because he does always look like he needs a couple more hours of sleep, but he's such a crucial part of the team, and I don't remember us having a squad player that we could rely upon like we do him. He went through a little difficult time, but that goal was so fun. I mean, he ate them
Mm.
up. I think it was who was there? Who was that on that side? What's his name? I always forget it.
Gomez and Van Dijk, right? Oh no,
No,
Harvey Elliott. Sorry, Harvey
yeah,
Elliott.
Harvey
Yeah,
Harvey
Harvey Elliott.
Elliott
Yeah,
and Luis Diaz were over there, and he ate them up, dinked it past them, ran with his little legs up there, and just kicked it in between Allison's legs. I mean, that was just yay! How was that in the ground? Like, was everybody just like? I'm sure it was so fun in the ground when that goal went
yeah.
in.
It's just like it's pure relief, right? Even
Yeah,
though they were down to 10 men, there's still this feeling of, oh, how can we fuck it up? And just to see him like take that little moment in his hands, because let's be honest, he gets the ball on the halfway line, so he's got no right to really score. And no one was really, from memory, no one was really busting a gut to support Trossard as well. So it felt like he kind of only had one option, and then just straight through the legs. I thought Van Dijk defended that situation really, really weird. But yeah, just like class from Trossard, and like you say, he's had a little dip, but now he's finding his form again. And if you can be that finisher to come on the pitch and give us like a really good last 20 minutes, and that stems from that great cameo at Nottingham Forest, which I know we spoke about, but just building confidence. And now he's added a goal. So yeah, class goal and like a massive sense of relief. And then it's like, yes, now we can enjoy it. Now we can relax. No more tension, no more stress. And it's also like the classic is like, yeah, fuck you. Like,
yeah, yeah,
the away fans are like miles away from me. I'm like halfway between the 18-yard line and halfway line. And the away fans are all the way down in the corner, but I'm still like, yeah, fuck you. Because you want to win. You want to win by a couple of goals, right? You don't want a 2-1. Oh, well, we gave you a goal, went down to 10 men. You should have had Gabriel sent off. You don't want all these things that they can say to take away the defeat. You want a convincing scoreline. So they're the goals you kind of celebrate more than the first or the second, because it's just like a
yeah.
sense of relief, and you can just enjoy it and sing the songs and hug the people around you. So yeah, class, man. Like that's what it's about. Like that's what it's about. And in fairness to Trossard, pretty cool celebration. Just ran to the North Bank and just stared at everyone. It's like, yeah, this is what I do. I was like, sick,
I love
love that,
Trossard.
love that.
Um, he that reminded me of the goal that we scored against Man United at home, the third one, where it was just like almost
Yeah,
like an extra one, but it was like it was so embarrassing for them that it was like even better, and then you could just be like, the game is over, like you're finished. Now it's like a long
yeah,
way
yeah,
home.
yeah. Yeah,
Get out.
exactly. Because even at 2-1 with 10 men, they're still probably thinking, oh, you never know. Like you always say, there's
Mhm.
always like one more chance, isn't there, for that team to score the goal? There's always that one moment. And then Trossard just took it away from their hands. And then, yeah, you can just see how gutted they were. And it's good because as Liverpool are quite annoying. I'm sure they'll say the same thing about us, but they're,
Yeah.
they're, they have been quite annoying to us over the past few years. And it's nice to beat them. And it's nice for Jota not to score against us.
Honestly, those comps of him scoring all those goals against Arsenal are now about to expire because
Yeah.
he's not. It ain't really been like that for a minute, but okay. It's like, okay, we get it. We actually should probably cook up a comp of Martinelli scoring against them because actually, recently he's been scoring loads against Liverpool. So, we'll definitely be cooking that up. But final thoughts on just how you're feeling, the vibes, Arsenal, whatever, going into the West Ham game. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I just feel good about things. I think West Ham away has potential to be a tough game. They're going through some dodgy form at the moment. So, yeah, I suppose the realist says guard against complacency, kind of reset, don't get too excited, because the irony would be, to celebrate this massive victory and then go to West Ham and just play like shit. So
Yeah.
we haven't been good against West Ham this season either, right? We've lost twice, right? Carabao Cup
Yeah, we're
and at
usually
home.
so good against them. That's what's annoying.
Yeah, so yeah, just reset and enjoy it, but don't enjoy it too much, and hopefully we can be motivated. I know I've said it 25 times, but I feel like we're at business end of the season now. So I just really hope that, like, I convinced myself that we could compete for the league, but that we're not going to win it. And I've done this thing where I'm thinking, right, if Brentford can do us a favour tonight, maybe we can. So
Mhm.
I want to enjoy this ride. I want to enjoy this journey. I want to be involved in this title race for as long as we can.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we show up in the games. I don't want us to experience games like Newcastle away when we're looking at all these dodgy VAR decisions and stuff. I want us to be in control of our destiny. I thought yesterday was great because we imposed ourselves in the first like 5-10 minutes of the game and we showed what we were about. So I really want us to take that into the next few games and almost like get those kickoffs and keep the ball and say, right, you're gonna have to come and get the ball of us, and it's gonna be really hard for you to do that because we're so confident in our ability. So yeah, I just want us to carry on and fingers crossed we can make something of this season. I really hope that Arteta is wrapping the players up who are a little bit in the red zone on Cotton Wall. It'll be interesting to see what's happening with Saka, if it's an injury, Jorginho, Zinchenko. Make sure they're okay for the next game, and then go again. But it's really nice for the fan base collectively to be happy. Like I really enjoyed that, where everyone could just enjoy the good times, right? And we're
Yeah.
not talking about Lacazette's goals versus like fucking Jesus or Pepe or what Emery and Aston Villa are doing and all this stuff, which is like 3-4 years ago. Like we're enjoying the
Yeah.
now, enjoying the good players that we have, and realizing that under this manager, we are probably going to go into another title race 2 years back to back. Like that's a good place to be. Of course, we want to win the league. Of course, we want to go all the way, but we're in a good place. So if we can enjoy it together, it's going to be a good couple of months.
I mean, yeah, enjoy it, like there's no reason to be miserable all the time. Like there'll be times as an Arsenal fan to be miserable. We know that. Right now is not the time, and like the team has put in a massive performance against a really good side. And obviously it's not winning a trophy, it's not anything like that, but it doesn't have to be. You can still celebrate um the win in isolation. In terms of West Ham, my only thoughts about it is I don't care how we win, just you have to. I don't care if it's ugly. I don't care if we scrape it. It doesn't have to be anything other than a win because we have to build on this performance. West Ham are an awkward opponent for us right now because they kind of set up in the way that's kind of our kryptonite. Deep block
Mm.
and try to nick it on the counter. And they have good players that can hit us on the counter. So it'll be a much different game than the Liverpool one where they opened up against us. And so I'll take that into consideration, but I fully expect us to win it. Nice to know that Tomiyasu will be back. Arteta also said that Gabriel Jesus will be back in days, so I would imagine that he'd be available for that game too. And you know, those are big boosts for us. As much as I didn't really miss Jesus in this game, he's still a massive part of the team, and Tomiyasu as well. So getting those two back in itself, I mean, that's massive. I think going into
Yeah,
these
it's
next couple
huge.
of
It's
weeks.
huge. I think it gives players like Ben White a little rest as well here and there. Like, or
Yeah.
gives. I'm not saying that we would take Saliba or Gabriel off, but if an injury happens or they're a little bit cramped up, you can give them a 10-minute rest because Tomiyasu is someone you can depend on across the whole back line.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you say, huge to have those guys back, and hopefully Jesus is back. And do you know what? I saw a lot of criticism for Jesus starting that game against Forest, and if you knew he was injured, why risk it? But I think that's what you do. Like you take each game as they come, and the most important game is the next game. And it doesn't matter who we're playing. Too many times we maybe try and save players for certain games. Like let's just treat every game as the most important game. No complacency. Like start the best team that you have available, and if someone gets injured in that game, start the next player. We've got the squad to do it in most positions, especially attackingly. We have the options. So yeah, so excited to see that West Ham game. And like you said, no need to be miserable. The only team that should be really miserable right now are Chelsea. Like if you're a Chelsea fan, that's a miserable life for you. Like we should not be miserable. We should be enjoying this. These are the times to enjoy. Whereas if you're Chelsea getting thumped at home to Wolves after spending God knows how much money, do you know what I mean? And it's funny that Jorginho would probably start in their team now, and Havertz. They'd probably both start, ironically.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So
What
yeah,
do to have Jorginho in their squad right now? Listen, you never know what you have till it's gone.
mate, Caicedo is dropping some stinkers in there. He
He
is
sucks. I kind of
God.
feel bad for him because he's super young, but then I also think you went there, and so it is what it
Yeah,
is, buddy. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. And
you're
listen, I
desperate.
have the same with players like Mudryk. I feel like but I'm like, no, you chose that. You chose that life. And
Yeah, you do.
when Mudryk's agent, no, when Mudryk joined Chelsea, I think his agent said like, oh, we saw the project at Chelsea. We thought it was a more exciting project. Blah 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 blah. And look, I mean, what an example of how quickly football can change. Like I know Chelsea have an incredible history, but that Champions League trophy feels like many years away, or sorry, many years ago. You know, and it's just like that. You can be the best team in the world or win one of the biggest cups in the world, but at what cost? Look at them now, like an absolute mess of a club
For
with
real.
about 400 players and a manager who, ironically, like has zero identity, right? Zero, like, and there's nothing really about him. He gets a free ride from the press because he's a nice guy, but he's stinking up the place. Like he's stinking up the place at Chelsea. So I feel like we should be quite thankful for what we've got right now, and yeah, like you say, enjoy it.
Yeah, long may it continue. I'm loving what I'm seeing over there, over yonder. I'm sure you can see it from outside your window. It stinks out there, doesn't it?
It does. I'll be honest with you, even though I'm getting quite old, on my balcony when Chelsea lose, I always see them walk past, and I always just shout from my balcony like Arsenal, 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 like an absolute child. But I just can't help myself but do it.
I love it.
I'm
I
very petty,
love it.
very very petty.
Well, we did it. We absolutely smashed it. You guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. We will be figuring out the vibes for Friday. I'll see what's the schedule's looking like so that we can preview the West Ham game a little bit for you guys and just have a general chat. You guys know Friday vibes is just relaxed and chill, whatever. But until then, let me know what you guys thought about the show. Make sure you guys can listen to this on Spotify, you guys can listen to it on Apple. These Monday shows are always available on YouTube, but then the Friday Vibes is on Patreon. So if you guys want to join the Patreon, you guys can at www.patreon.com/the Cannon Club. And yeah, you guys super enjoyed this. And like we said, long may it continue. And we'll talk soon. Bye, guys. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cannon Club. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the big managerial shifts that may be afoot in world football. Because if you've been living under a rock, Klopp and Xavi will not be continuing beyond the season. So we're going to be talking about that, as well as a little bit of a forest preview. What? What?
Just froze. Now
Did I-
you're on mute, Femi.
No, okay, no, because like I realized that I wasn't on mute when I started laughing, but it wasn't you. It was me and Laura. We made the exact same face at the exact same time, and I was like, okay, wait, is it me? And then she's doing, is it me? And then like, so sorry,
Am
sorry.
I back?
Yes, you're back
Yeah.
now, but you were gone for like a good like 15 seconds. No lie.
Yeah. We were both like,
God, I was like, wait, what's happened? What did I say?